So a little bit different order to things this morning. We got the text from Melissa letting us know about her grandmother Lillian a little bit into the day, and I just thought it would be only appropriate to acknowledge and honor Lillian. Melissa, is there anything else that you'd like to say?
I was very lucky to have her as a grandmother. She always inspired me to be fiercely independent and to laugh and to dance. And every meal was always the best meal she's ever had. And, she was always kind of cackling and like the life of the party. And so I just feel so grateful that I had her as a role model of how to live, because she really lived well and had a fantastic life, fantastic long life. So yeah. And thanks so much for doing the Heart Sutra and honoring her with me today, everybody.
You're welcome.
Yep, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
All of us. I mean, we could end the day right there, and I'd consider it, Zen well done.
Yeah.
Just to be with you. But of course, I'm going to take some time and blab on for a while as well. Good morning, everyone. Winston, great to have you with us. Winston, who confounds everyone with Lloyd on the screen. But, anyway, Winston Lloyd. And just great to see everybody. I'm always so appreciative, every one of you for showing up and doing the work and showing up. This morning, I wanted to talk a little bit about, why we're here. Prajna Heart Zen Center, Yukoji, Zen, all of us. And I'm going to start with a little bit of a screen share. So let's see if this works. All right. So I think you're seeing some of us on the screen sitting. Yes? Is it working? Good. This particular line of inquiry, as those of you that may have read the newsletter know, kind of began on Thursday evening when we did our sunset sit, which is, we're taking the opportunity about once a month to gather outdoors and physically separated, but together. It's kind of cool. It's like, there we are. We're together. And I guess it's a little bit off to say this inquiry began Thursday evening, because maybe it began when I was recently up at Yukoji, or maybe it began 40 years ago. I don't know. But the inquiry goes like this, who do we love? How do I love, and who do I love? I was up at Yukoji recently, and I just had this moment where I just kind of got this funny smile on my face, because because of the pandemic, it has essentially been in lockdown for a year, according to the county and the state. So there's about 5 people up there right now. There's Tenshin Roshi, there's Makwin or Gavin, there's Jokai, there's Paul and Stephanie Keeson, 5 people. And I was up there doing some training and working out, working with people on some of the things that need to be done. And I looked around and what are the odds that these random 5 people on the planet I would get along with? And not only what are the odds that I would get along with them, but that I would truly and deeply love them. It's 5 people, that just ran. I didn't know them 2.5 years ago. I didn't know Deanne that long ago, or Galen, or Winston. And yet I felt this profound sense of, connection and love. And I thought, well, is it really that simple? Is it really as simple as going, I choose these people. I choose them as my tribe. I choose them as my friends. I choose to love them. And then that inquiry expanded, sitting above Los Angeles here at the Baldwin Hills Scenic Overlook. And by the way, see that middle cushion there that's empty? That's open to any of you all the time. There's always an empty cushion. It's kind of like, what is it, Elijah?
Yeah.
Walking through the door, keeping the door open, right? So, but anyway, there we're sitting, and we always take extra cushions. And, I like numbers. So, I think it's 6.97 million people in the city of Los Angeles. And then I don't know how many we're looking at in this view, but it's a lot of people. And I was like, as Dan, how many of these people can I be in relationship with? How many of these people can I love? How many of them can I hate or dislike or have different positions from? And how do I blast through those barriers and definitions? And of course, our practice is a large part of that, but we still spend our time as Dan or Melissa or Sharma or, Galen, disagreeing with people, having different views that pull us apart, And certainly the events in Atlanta of the last week and some of the events over the last, we can't lay it all on Trump, through our lifetimes, demonstrate that it's very easy not to love everyone. And it's very easy for some to slip into hate and for that to take on, violent and psychotic forms. But here I was looking at Los Angeles and going, wow, that's a lot of people. Is it as simple as a choice of broadening that view, of broadening that context, of broadening how I look at the world and how I look at these multitudes? Sure enough, a young woman, Vanessa, I heard her kind of rustling about behind us as we were sitting. And I turned around and she was kind of there. We had a little sign that said grab a cushion, but she wasn't completely sure what to do. And so I just said, I just turned around and waved. I said, come on in, grab a seat. And so she sat the second period with us, and it was, starting to get cold. And so we gave her a blanket, and, just another example of there's a random person who came and sat down, and I don't know if we'll ever see her again. But Melissa, didn't she have just a glorious smile and presence about her?
She was wonderful. She was so sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can say with 100% certainty, she's so wonderful. She's so sweet. And we had maybe 5 words in a half hour of Zazen. But, again, I think there's something really beautiful in that. Something really beautiful in our innate ability as humans to love when we don't get in the way. So, going to our mission statement from the website, I thought this was worth visiting. The second paragraph, formed in 2018, we are a community that believes in the application of wisdom-based compassion to the everyday problems and opportunities in front of us. We are a group diverse in background, belief, and experience, united by a common understanding that the end of suffering is based in love, and that reconciliation must and can happen across the perceived barriers that divide us. You know, we wrote this almost 3 years ago, and it just seems to keep having resonance and relevance to what's going on in the world and in our hearts. You know, if ever there were a time in need of the practice of reconciliation, you know, this could be it. So I thought it was interesting to revisit that. We've toyed occasionally with changing this statement, and we can't really beat it, so we keep it. But it does lead to a question, you know, how big do I love? You know, how big do I love? How big can I love? How far can it extend? Mark, you did some work on this just in the last few weeks, right? How big can I love? And for Mark, that, you know, was prompted by some koan study, and one that put him up some against some definitions, self definitions, and working through that. But you know, it's a good question, isn't it? How big do I love? You know, what is that capability, and how do I expand it? There's this notion that I teach in some of the leadership training called unconditional respect. And so the bigness of your love can start here, the extent or the range of it. What if we practiced unconditional respect for everyone? You know, full stop, as the Brits would say. Unconditional respect for everyone. And the response that usually comes back is like, I can't do that. You know, Sharma, we've had some conversations, you know, kind of around this too. All of us have, really. Unconditional. Wait a minute. You're saying I should respect everyone. How is that possible? You know, how do I respect somebody I don't respect? How do I respect somebody that doesn't deserve my respect? And so there is a model to help with that. And it looks like this. Because usually when we're having trouble with respect, it starts with behavior. What is the behavior I'm observing right now? This is observed now at the top.
Okay.
We have lots of things going on the screen here. There you go, Lori.
Thanks.
What is the observed behavior? This person is acting like a jerk. This person is acting in a hateful, spiteful, disrespectful fashion. This person is disrespecting me. They're abusing other people, oppressing other people. What I'm seeing right now, I cannot respect, and that's valid. That's valid, because certain behaviors should not be respected. But now we're talking about, how do I respect the person? So when things are in that condition, there's another place to go, which is, how do I know this person previously to have behaved? Because all of us have our bad days, or bad years, or bad months, or bad moments as a couple or as friends. So right now, this person, there is no way I can respect this person, but I actually know them. I've observed them to behave in a way that I actually could respect. So when you're having trouble with this unconditional respect, one place to go is, well, who do I know them to be in other times, other circumstances? You know, maybe COVID lockdown is just turned them into a raving, you know, lunatic from my point of view, but they haven't always been that way. So starting to go deeper down into how we experience someone. And if that still is troublesome and not working, Then there's who does that person have the potential to be? Now, this is a real sweet spot as a Zen practitioner or as a a priest or a pastor, Paul, or a chaplain, right? What potential does this person have? And can I respect that? Can I respect their potential to be somebody other than whom they're being? And as school teachers or as nurses or as Zen practitioners or as teachers or chaplains, we're called upon to see others in this way, not just their behavior, but what is their potential. Because if we don't actually see the potential, where do we go? And this actually maps over to one of the three pillars of Zen, the great doubt, great determination, and great faith. That faith is often defined as that understanding, that knowledge, that faith that we all are Buddha, that actually exists in all of us and may not just have been realized. And if it hasn't been realized, we may not have seen it, or we may not be seeing it now. So anyway, this is just one model for how do I start expanding out that circle of people that I can love. Start with expanding a circle of respect. And this is just one way to go at it. Little video here about unconditional respect. I hope this comes through without too much chattering or stuttering. If it does, I'll make sure you get a high-res version. Here we go.
This is LA Sheriff's Deputy Elton Simmons, and I bet you don't like him already. Seeing him there, hiding in the shadows, why can't he go catch some real criminals, you may be thinking? Or no wonder he has a record number of complaints. Who wouldn't complain about a guy whose sole purpose in life is to ruin your day?
Go around the corner.
By the very nature of the business, all LA County traffic cops can expect to get at least a few complaints every year. A lot of them are petty, people just mad because they got a ticket. But regardless, they all get documented and placed in the officer's personnel file.
Which is why Captain Pat Maxwell was stunned when he started looking through Simmons' file.
I just said that's not possible.
Although he did see lots of commendations. Looking back over the last 20 years, over the last 25,000 traffic stops, Captain Maxwell couldn't find one complaint. A record. 0.
I mean, Vegas or MIT could not give you the odds or the statistical probability of that.
Obviously, Elton is doing something right.
Yeah, it's got to be something.
You know what it is?
No.
No idea.
No.
Until the captain told him, Elton didn't even know he had such a record, let alone how he got it.
It's just how I do it every day.
So we trailed him for a day to see if we could figure out how he does it.
Yeah, what's going on? How you doing today, man?
First thing I noticed was that he has this pitch-perfect mix of authority
I need you to take care of that.
and diplomacy,
I don't want to keep pulling you over, though.
with none of the attitude that sometimes comes with a cop.
That's okay. That's good. Just be careful, all right? I'm here with you. I'm not up here. Because one thing I hate is to be looked down at. I can't stand it. So I'm not going to look down at you.
That's why, in lieu of a lecture, he gives most people the benefit of the doubt.
So it happens.
Of course, they still get the ticket,
It happens.
just not the guilt trip. And drivers seem to appreciate that.
You know, it's not that bad.
So much so that by the end, some are downright smitten.
You know what it is? It's his smile. Really? He's got a great smile.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You're giggling now. You just got a ticket.
I just got a ticket. He's a nice guy. I mean, you know, how can you be mad at that guy?
Apparently, you can't.
Disarming.
That's it, disarming.
Time after time,
Very kind.
ticket after ticket.
Never so happy to get a ticket in my life.
We saw Officer Elton Simmons melt away a polar ice cap of preconceptions. And his boss says there's a lesson in there for hard-nosed traffic cops everywhere.
Their excuse is, well, I give tickets all day long. I'm going to get complaints. Well, that's not true.
There's a way.
There is a way to do it. And Elton Simmons is the way.
Certainly, no complaints here. Steve Hartman, on the road in Los Angeles.
Anyway, great story of unconditional respect. Actually, here's somebody in a position of authority, and you notice he's that place where he says, "I don't put myself up here. I don't like to be looked down at, so I don't put myself in a position of looking down at people." And I would argue there's a man who's full of love as well. Another way to expand that circle of who we can love and work with in Los Angeles or the country or the world is really examining this question of who are you? You know, and our Zen practice goes right at the heart of this. Like, who are you? And for this, I want to tell a little story. Some of you have heard parts of this story before, but I'm pulling some different things together today. How do you define yourself? Okay. How do you define yourself? And specifically in this case is, how big is your circle of affiliation? Okay. So like this little circle, say for me, could be, I run ultra marathons and I'm a Zen priest and teacher, and I run 100-mile races. You know, that's a pretty small circle. You know, there's a few other Zen priests out there, and there's a few other people born in Albuquerque, and there's a few other people running ultra marathons, but that's certainly not going to create affiliation with a great number of people. So one way to look at this is to expand that circle, to make it bigger. Okay, to expand that circle of affiliation. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to tell a story on Lori here, sitting to my right. We'll keep her off camera for now. So if she hits me, you'll be able to see that. Lori was the youngest of 4 daughters through the, well, she still is, but she's always been the youngest of 4 daughters. But you know, she grew up during the 60s, and her oldest sister was 13 years older than she was. And during the Vietnam War, that gave Lori a very different view of what was going on there. So at age 14, she was marching in the streets of Yakima, you know, Washington, protesting the war. Lori's family and organizing it at age 14. Lori's family is one that generally believes in love versus hate. You know, they were a church-going family, but just as a matter of philosophy and principle, love over hate and peace over violence. And this ran deep in the family and with her older sisters. You know, Lori has a long history of this kind of activism, of being on the street, of fighting for what is right. Okay? So, you know, you come out of that and you retain that. And then a guy named George W. Bush is elected president, kind of on the, you know, slightly later on the heels of his father. And I don't know where any of you were politically during that time, or even age-wise during that time. But I do remember Lori like just fuming and fulminating at the screen, the television screen, anytime President Bush came on the screen. You know, she could not stand the guy, you know, like politically opposed, philosophically opposed, morally opposed. And by the way, why can't he even get English right? You know, I mean, George Bush comes on the TV and like, I got another whole drama going on beside me, you know? And so let's put it this way. Lori was not a fan. Let's just make it simple. Not a fan at all, you know, for a number of years. So fast forward to, we're living in New Mexico, and a good friend of ours, Jim Woodson, is a painter, and he is the state painter, at one point designated the state painter of Texas, but he has a studio and a home near us in New Mexico. He gets a phone call from George W. Bush's people saying, you know, the former president is pursuing his painting practice, and he would like to know if you would be his instructor. Now, Jim may be even further to the left than Lori. He's, you know, college professor. Lori's going like this. College professor, long ponytail, artist. And he is like, what do I do with this? But he decided to give it a go, and he became the painting instructor for George W. Bush. And the former president wanted to visit Jim's studio in New Mexico. We were having dinner with Jim and his wife, Barbara, and found out about this. And largely as a result of our Zen training and some of the specific training at Santa Monica Zen Center about blasting through barriers of who you think you are and what you believe, I said, can we join? And they said, I don't know. And so there began this process of, we got vetted by the Secret Service, this and that. And we were invited to come meet with the former president high on a mesa in New Mexico for coffee. And we ended up having coffee that morning with President Bush. There were more Secret Service agents in black SUVs than there were people in attendance. There were 6 of us in attendance at this coffee. You know, classic SUVs pointed, facing out everywhere, and men and women with guns. Secret Service, very friendly, by the way. I never really pictured them that way, but they were very congenial. And we had coffee with Lori's nemesis. Now, I don't know about you, but this does not look like hatred. She's not doing a very good job here of hating the man, of fulminating at his face. I often show this picture and go, as a husband, this looks like something I need to step in between, to kind of break up the love affair.
That's hilarious.
So what's going on here? I believe you were talking about a painting of water lilies.
Here?
Yeah.
I think maybe earlier. I don't know.
Yeah, but they're definitely. Remember, George W. Bush is there to visit his painting instructor, and Lori is a painter. And they connected over art in a way that transcended everything else. And look what's going on here. We talked about his paintings of Putin. He said that he painted Putin 23 times trying to capture the evil in his eyes. He talked about getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go out to the pond on his Texas ranch so that he could capture just that moment where the lilies were opening to get the painting right. Okay. Now, does this change any of the policies or politics or things that happened during his presidency? No. But I tell you, if what you're seeing on this picture right here can happen, anything is possible. And this is called widening your circle of affiliation. Because if Lori had gone into this meeting holding on to, you buffoon, I don't like the way you speak, I don't like anything you did, I disagree, we would have had a very different morning. As it was, we got to meet the man, behind all of this, and take away what you will, but it was very different than just reading newspaper articles and watching newscasts. So, circles of affiliation. Even those you disagree with most violently, is there something you can find to agree with? Is there some point of common ground that you can find to connect on? Melanie, this relates to some of the things that you and I were talking about, and Texas. How big can you make that circle? So this is, how do you define who you are? How small is that? How expansive is that? How willing are you to expand that circle in service to that potential of who somebody might be? There are other relevant stories here, but I'll save them for another time because there's one other thing I want to cover. Another way to do this is to look at who you are not. Who you are not. So for this part, I want, and some of you have done this exercise before, but I'm not worried because no matter how many times I do this, there's always something to be gained. For this, I want you to essentially go back into Zazen. You know, strike the pose, take a few deep breaths, close your eyes. As you close your eyes, just one last look at the screen, I want you to picture a ziploc baggie. Okay, because this is going to be our friend here. Okay, so everybody take a few deep breaths. Just recenter yourself. I want you to picture a ziploc baggie. The first thing I want you to do is, in that baggie, put, I am a Zen practitioner. Remove that from your identity, put it in the baggie, and seal the baggie. I'm a Zen practitioner is now in the bag. That's not who I am. I'm a Californian. I live in California. Put that in the bag. Take it away, put it in the bag, zip it up. I am a liberal. I'm a conservative. I'm a libertarian. Whatever that political definition is of yourself, take it, remove it, put it in the baggie. Now the town you live in, take the town you live in, put it in the baggie. No longer has anything to do with you. It's just in the baggie. Take being an American and put it in the baggie. Zip it up and put it away. I am a member of Prajna Heart Zen Center or Yokoji Zen Mountain Center. Take that and put it in the baggie. I am a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a friend. Take that, seal it away in the baggie. I am a parent, or I am a child. Take that identity away and put it in the baggie. And just keep going. This baggie's getting a little full, but it can hold a lot. Anything you identify as you, start taking it and putting it in the baggie. Your race, your gender. I like cats, I like dogs. Whatever it is, put it in the baggie. When you've got that baggie really full, just put it down on the floor next to you. Keep sitting. Okay, and start, when you're ready, open your eyes and come back to the screen. And from that place, look at the screen. And from that place, just look around you. This is, what boundaries do you feel? And what is your capacity to love and connect? Anybody have an answer to that question? Deanne, you gonna unmute yourself?
Feels pretty boundless.
Yeah. Yeah. And how does it relate to our practice?
Our practice encompasses everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our whole experience of living.
Yeah. Thank you, Deanne. Anybody else? How'd that go? Any one of the exercises, a circle of affiliation, there's the put it all in the baggie and put the baggie on the floor. Just observations? Melissa?
I definitely felt like the less I'm identifying with a certain thing as me, the more I'm the same as every other human. So when I put all the things in the bag, I just felt, like it felt boundless, like Deanne said, but I feel less separation. Maybe that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Roshi has a nice way of talking about this when asked about, say, racism or gender or anything. He says, I approach everyone as a human first, just as a human. And another way of looking at all the things that you put in the baggie are labels of identity. Paul, looks like you were reaching. Nope. Anybody else? Deanne, go for it.
And Shiro, I think also if we approach all sentient beings as with the same respect, whether they're human, whether they're some other form of animal, tree, rocks, all sentient beings, we're all in this together.
Yeah. And how could that not be true? One of the greatest ironies of it all. Like, how could that not be true? We pretend that's not true. Yeah.
What helps me sometimes is to really use that concept of interdependent co-arising as my koan. as I'm out in the world. And if you meditate on that, it's difficult to feel separation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can add anything good to that. That was nicely put. Thank you. Somebody got a pencil sharpener going?
I was left with my moral compass. I feel like I just had my innate sense of like what's right and wrong. And it's the labels and the layers and the identities that kind of override that. Whereas like I know fundamentally what's right, and that would be how I would normally act, you know, if I didn't have all the messages and the identities telling me to override that.
Isn't that beautiful, everyone? You hear what Tal just said? By stripping everything away, what she's left with is her moral compass, okay? And it's really, really beautiful, Tal, because sometimes the stripping of everything away or co-arising interdependency or I am one with everything is interpreted as permission for non-action. But if what you're left with is your true self and your true moral compass and just your innate understanding of what is so, then you can act instantly in the face of injustice. Right? I've not heard it put that way, Tal. That's just amazing. I threw everything away, and what I was left with is my moral compass. And this is where the precepts really originate too. The Buddhist precepts, not as a bunch of rules and identities, but as that natural arising of that moral compass that we are, without all the words and labels. Amazing. Thank you.
I have something. Hey, you know, the reason I wanted to talk a little bit about the meeting with Bush and how that went for me, because, you know, we've been our friend who was his coach, his painting coach, was sharing the photographs of the paintings that he was doing, and they were so good, and I respected the work so much that that it really turned my head about it had me seeing this individual as a soul who's living this life. And you know what, very many people describe him as the worst at that point described him as the worst president ever, and that they hated him so much. And you know, like it meant so much to me that he kept going as a soul into a space of really curiosity about what it would be like if he just pursued being the best painter he could be. And this wasn't in retaliation. This wasn't he wasn't asking the world to love him for that. He just did that because it really mattered to him as the spirit he is.
So,
you know, and just to get out there and apply himself to something that was far different from anything else that he had experienced in the world did not exist. And yet it did entirely exist. It was an incredibly, very much like my Buddhist training. And it really changed the way I felt about him. And it made me really see that, you know, when you are an elected official, you're subject to a lot of things that we can't even know, that we'll never know. We'll never really know what was going on. And I'm not making him right. I'm not making anybody right, but I'm making a contact, true touchdown with not knowing. And so that really was my inquiry, is how can I really go into this place of not knowing and lose this animosity and this hatred for the sake of celebrating this human being who has found his true nature, his true self.
Yeah, I think what Laurie said is really important. This is not to gloss over or excuse anything that happened or anything that this person did. It was a different point of connection and a different place to go. We were, speaking of circles of affiliation, our social media world, which is largely liberal leaning, attacked us like you would not believe. We got disaffiliated. But somebody that was at the breakfast posted pictures on Facebook of us with the former president, and you would think that that Laurie and I were secretly plotting the next war. I mean, it was just vicious attack on us, and there was real learning in that too. And again, this is, where do you approach things from? I don't want to go into that too much, because the point was really just, can you connect with somebody that you really don't think you want to connect with, or were completely disconnected from? Is it possible?
Or you never thought about it.
Or you never thought. Who would have thought? Okay, I am going to go for this one thing. Part of it, this who are you and who are you not, is how big are you allowing yourself to be as well. In the aftermath of that meeting, about a year later, we sat down with a friend who was just furious with us for having done that. And it was a long conversation, but I said to her, I said, do you know that the Dalai Lama met with George Bush the week before we did? And she said, well, yeah, but that's the Dalai Lama. And no, I'm not claiming that either one of us is the Dalai Lama, but look at what happens there, right? Like, and I said that, wait, look, what have you just done to us and yourself? You put us, like, our largest possible role is that of fanboy, fangirl, observer. Like, the only reason we would do anything would be to bow down to somebody and go, oh, we love you, or we condone. And yet she was able to give the Dalai Lama permission. So what if you gave yourself that permission and credit to go in that large capacity, to stand for the natural moral compass that is Tal's right? Like, that's pretty cool, in my opinion. How powerful is Tal? How powerful can she be? How big is her love? How many of those people in Los Angeles, in the country? How do we start breaking down some of this divide? How do we, if we care, actually get anything done other than talking to each other and agreeing with each other? Because we all know what's right. So anyway, anybody else? I see it's 11:03. Melanie, I'm calling on you.
I appreciate this. Just like really sitting with what everyone has shared, and also the experience of putting identity in a bag. I think Tal, like, you really helped me, because I know that if I'm going to identify with being on the left and identify with social justice, there's a phrase that keeps circling around, which is no unity without accountability. So it's like, if I'm going into a situation with my own moral compass, and I have this idea that this other person is not being accountable for their actions or their behavior, then, like, to just really trust my moral compass, as opposed, it's not my job to wake them up, but if something happens, to just trust that, and like you've been working with me on, Dan, is to not attach that I need to be right about it. Just, be unity going into that situation. Be it. And you know, it's like for me right now, I'm having so much stuff with my Texas contingency on so many levels, my family, my friends, the people I grew up with, and it's really hard. I want to hide. I don't want to be involved. So I appreciate this so much, and I appreciate everyone here. And we're working it, aren't we?
Thanks, Melanie and Tall. Soko, double Sokos. It's like, how often do Dharma names repeat like that on the screen? And Deanne. The moral compass part of this, another way of saying this, what you've underscored is when you live your life according to your values rather than your agenda.
Mm-hmm.
When you live your life according to that moral compass or your values or Buddhist precepts or whatever it is that you call it, it gives you a lot more flexibility around that agenda. Yeah. Because you can succeed, you can fail, you can try again, you can fall on your face, but you're still being true to that moral compass and those values. The agenda can change as necessary to stay in accordance with those values. But very often what happens is we get so attached to the agenda, the identity, the what's right, how I know I'm right and they're wrong, that we actually go off values in pursuit of the agenda. So the values, the precepts, the everything in the baggie gives you that space to be infinitely agile. Infinitely agile. All right, 11:06. I know some of us will be heading for Tenshin Roshi's Dharma talk at 11:30. Anything else before we say adieu for one of our Sunday mornings, another one of our Sunday mornings? Adieu. The kid from Albuquerque saying adieu. What the hell is that?